Hey everybody, I'm Chuck Esposito. He's Jason McCormick. That's our buddy Teaser. Here we are for another segment of Bookends. Just completed week 3. Early football week 3, Jay, was pretty good. We were smiling from our side of the counter, but late in the night with the Packers and Saints game going over and the Packers winning outright, not so good. We kind of gave a lot of it back. But overall, good football. 60% of the games are hitting over right now. Not as many penalties. And teams that are 7-point favorites or more are winning the game at a 70% clip. Both are extremely high numbers. It's early in the season right now, but I think the bettors overall have done fairly well.
Yeah, those stats are amazing on the overs. It was great to finally get some college football back on the screens. The excitement in the book was fantastic, but you said it, kind of the Packers in the Sunday night game and then combo to the Chiefs in the Monday night game made it a great week for the players. And I know there's a lot of players out there that probably wish they had taken a lesson from us last week and bought the half or bought a point with that Monday night total ending at 54. A lot of the tickets out there with 54.5, 55. So a much-needed under for us in the books. Thank God for the missed extra point and a missed field goal by the Chiefs, but what an exciting game. And obviously the Chiefs kind of flipped the script after struggling in L.A. with the Chargers. They came out and really handled the Ravens handily.
Well, Patrick Mahomes is undefeated now against Lamar Jackson. I think he's clearly shown right now that he wants to repeat as champion. I think it's interesting, though, because we were texting back and forth that night, rooting for the under. But Andy Reid, that first Thursday, if you remember, against the Texans, very similar situation. He chose to kick the field goal instead of just kind of taking the knee and letting it run out. And we thought it might be a similar situation, but he didn't do it. The under came in, and it was a big game for us. There was a lot of this going on that night. But anyway, now we're going to dive into college football now. And I think before we get into the games, though, we're always trying to kind of go through some stuff with you guys and educate you a little bit. And I know we talked about teaser, and our good friend here was able to get some teasers in that week. But in college football, we offer a 10-point teaser special, which Jay's kind of go through for you guys.
Yeah, obviously from a football standpoint, we offer 6, 6.5, or 7-point teasers. And again, that word teaser means you're going to take a 7-point favorite. So let's say the LSU is favored by 7 points. If we tease it by 7 points, it's going to go down to a pick. In college football, we have the 10-point teaser special. So it's actually a 3-team teaser. You have to pick 3 teams, and you're going to be able to tease those by 10 points, and it's 12 to win 10. So it's one of those fun bets that's out there, in particular with college, when you get some of those bigger favorites, call it a Clemson or those big favorites. You can take those teams that are favored by 28, 30 points, take them down to 20, and maybe love that bet. Or on the flip side, take those huge dogs and be getting 35, 40 points. So have fun with the 10-point college teaser. It's something to look for on our betting menu.
Yeah, it really is kind of cool. Teasers have become a lot more popular, and that 10-point college teaser is really cool. We're going to kind of change up the format a little bit. We're going to key on a couple of games, both in college football and then pro football. We're going to start with college football and a big game, Kansas State, Texas Tech. And what do you think about that game, Jay?
Well, I don't know if we can call it a big game. I think it's an interesting game. Obviously, going to the Big 12. This game is on FS1 at 12:30. I thought this was an interesting game. Texas Tech came out in their first game of the season and barely beat Houston Baptist. Really struggled against them in a 35-33 win. And then they came out last week and they had a 12-point lead on the Texas Longhorns that they blew away, went into overtime, and Texas was able to beat them in overtime. But it was a huge step up for Texas Tech and put a good game against Texas, but then they blew it at the end. On the other side, Kansas State lost their first game to Arkansas State. So they both really struggled in their opening week. And then Kansas State pulled the biggest upset of the year so far in knocking off Oklahoma. Were down a bunch. I think they were down 21 points, stormed all the way back, and were able to beat Oklahoma. Two very, very high-powered offenses, 2 quarterbacks in Skylar Thompson and Bowman for Texas Tech that should be able to light up the scoreboard. Texas Tech will be making the first trip on the road to Kansas State. I think this could be an interesting game. A lot of fireworks going on, but it's going to be a good, exciting Big 12 game.
I know he said that's not a big game, but I'm going to hit a big game, and that's the Auburn-Georgia game, which is a huge rivalry game. I think the Deep South's one of their biggest rivalries. The 125th meeting between these two teams. Georgia holds, I think, 60 to 56 lead. Georgia is 13-3 against Auburn in their last 16 meetings. They've really dominated them of late. This is a huge rivalry game. I think everyone wants to see this game. Auburn has a very young and talented quarterback in Bo Nix, but Georgia is awfully tough. I mean, they're almost a touchdown favorite in this game, Jay, and I think you can make a case that of the entire college schedule right now, this is the biggest or the most marquee game on the board.
Yeah, JT Daniels, the USC transfer transfer going out to Georgia. This becomes even a bigger game when you think about the fact that LSU lost that first game and setting up where we're at in the SEC and who may be going head-to-head with Alabama. Both these teams want to be there, so this is a big game early in the season.
It's absolutely a big game. We're going to touch on pro football now, guys, and one thing that's come up, and we've got a lot of questions. Both of us have gotten numerous guests that have asked and emailed or texted us, what happens with a game that's canceled in pro football? And we had the Steelers-Titans game that has been officially postponed now for the entire week. It's not going to be moved to Monday or Tuesday. It's going to be moved to sometime later in the season. But regardless, anytime a pro football game is actually moved to another date, it is a refund. You get your money back on that game. If they simply just change location on the same, and the game's going to be played on the same date, you still would have action. But a game that changes date, per our house rules, it is a refund. So if you had a bet on the Steelers and Titans early in the week, you would get a refund on that game. So we're going to dive in now. We're going to start with, early games on Sunday. And Jay's going to touch on the Dolphins-Seattle game. I think you look at Seattle, and I know we talked about it last week, that Green Bay was playing the Saints, and you can make a case that these two teams were maybe the two best teams in the NFC going into that game, and maybe a preview of the NFC title game. But now, hey, the Saints are 1-2. And I think that team that plays in Seattle might have something to say about that.
Yeah, they make the trip all the way to Miami this week. Obviously 3-0. Obviously Russell Wilson has been lights out. I think he's been the NFL Offensive Player of the Week 2 of the 3 weeks this year. He's got 14 touchdowns to only 1 interception. His receivers in Lockett and Metcalf have been absolutely amazing. They are going to be missing Chris Carson this week. Their running back is not going to play, so they're going to turn to Carlos Hyde most likely. This is I've heard a lot of people use the term trap game here when they looked at the Seattle and they see Seattle only a 6.5-point favorite at Miami, and they look at the board and they say, man, that seems really light for the way that Seattle's been playing.
Right.
Miami obviously comes into this game with 3 extra days of rest. They played on Thursday night against Jacksonville last week. They lost to the Patriots and the Bills, and then finally went out and beat Jacksonville. But when we talk about trap game, I think one of the reasons why this line is so light is that Seattle has been obviously fantastic on the offensive side of the ball, but it really allowed a lot of points on the defensive side of the ball. And now, no Jamal Adams, no Irvin. Dunbar is questionable in the secondary. Griffin is questionable in their secondary. So Fitzmagic has been able to put some big games up. He's got some great receivers. Miami may be able to hang into this game. So I think that's why you see that line kind of going down, is that cross-country trip for Seattle.
Right.
They're out a couple players. They're a little bit banged up. Obviously, Russell Wilson has been unstoppable so far, but maybe Miami just has enough to hang in that game, cover that 6, and maybe pull an upset.
I think we've seen that a lot this year when there's an abundance of injuries. We saw it in the Atlanta-Dallas game. We've seen it in the Broncos-Jets game, that when one team has just a number of players out, and that is the case with Seattle defensively. I was going to touch on the same thing with the traveler cross country, but without Adams, who kind of is that captain now, and they didn't have a pure pass rusher, and with Irving being out for the season, it'll be interesting to see how they react to this game.
Yeah, and Gaskin Myles Gaskin, the running back for Miami, really looked good against Jacksonville last week. So you add him in with those wide receivers and the tight end Gesicki. They've got the weapons on Miami.
Williams and Parker too at wideout. I mean, I thought they looked really good. I mean, Fitzpatrick had a kind of a fun game on Thursday night last week against the Jags. Kind of was able to go up and down the field whenever he wanted. I'm going to dive into an interesting kind of game right now between an AFC team and an NFC team. It's the Colts against the Bears. Colts come into this game 2-1. They've won both their games at home. They lost their one game on the road. The Bears are undefeated. I'm not sure how they're 3-0. They won all 4 games by 4 points. They've trailed in 2 of those games by double digits, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, came back to win. They're making a quarterback change. Trubisky's out. Nick Foles is in, which I think is the right call to make. Interesting stat on the Colts, though. 0-1 on the road this year. Lost their last 5 road games last year. They've now lost 6 straight road games. They're a road favorite here. I think it's kind of an interesting matchup. Rivers kind of, I think, he's not a real mobile quarterback, kind of plays into maybe the Bears' defense a little bit. Anxious to see how Nick Foles performs in this game. But again, it's the 3-0 Bears against the 2-1 Colts. Both teams have high expectations, but a home dog in this one in Soldier Field.
I've been really impressed with Taylor, the rookie running back out of Wisconsin for the Colts. I think he's been fantastic. With Marlon Mack going down early in the season for them, he's kind of taken over that running game. They still have Hines to come in and Wilkins, but really impressed with that Colts running game. If they're able to get that established, give Rivers a little bit of protection, I think that's why you see the Colts favorite here. And obviously the Bears know Tariq Cohen in their backfield, who went down with injury. So again, very tight line, 2.5, 2-point favorites. Should be a good game to watch.
Yep, I agree. Now we're going to talk about a game that is in our backyard. It's the Vegas Raiders against the really impressive Buffalo Bills. I mean, Josh Allen has been terrific, and they travel across country as well. The Raiders win. They were able to win on the road at Carolina. They won their home opener against the Saints. Now they're playing, and you can make a case for one of the top 3 or 4 teams, I think, in the AFC in the Buffalo Bills.
Well, you said it. Josh Allen has really been fantastic this year. I think he's number 2 in the NFL in passing yards, only behind Prescott, and number 2 in throwing touchdowns, only behind Russell Wilson.
I think in 4 categories, he's number 2 in the AFC.
And he's a dual-threat quarterback. He can also do it with his legs. They come in with Diggs, who's been fantastic. They're most likely going to be without John Brown, their deep receiver in this game, so they might have to depend a little bit more on Cole Beasley from a possession receiver. When I look at this game, though, I think one of the big things is the Raiders are kind of in that banged up.
They're banged up
on offense. They're most likely going to be without Ruggs, without Bryan Edwards at receiver, so that's going to leave them down to Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, who's been fantastic. But the one matchup standpoint is that the Bills have been absolutely fantastic against opposing tight ends this year. So if they're able to shut down Waller, the Raiders are really going to have to depend on Jacobs both running the ball and hopefully catching the ball out of the backfield. And like I said, we might see a lot of Hunter Renfrow. But this is another one of those scenarios where the Bills finally make that true road game. They had to go to Miami, but were able to stay on the East Coast. They handled the Rams early last week. They allowed the Rams to leak back into the game, and then were able to go finish it off. But really make that road trip. And this Raider team, it's how are they adopting Allegiant Stadium? They were able to pull that huge upset on Monday night over the Saints, and despite the fact that there's no fans there, they're still making Allegiant Stadium that home field advantage for them. So we'll see if they can pull it off this week.
Yeah, it's an interesting game, I think, for both those two teams. I think another really big game afternoon for us is going to be the Patriots and Chiefs. I mean, I was so impressed with the way the Chiefs looked on Monday night. I thought defensively they looked stout. They really put a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson. They didn't let him run. He threw for less than 100 yards that night. He did miss some big plays to Hollywood Brown, but he didn't look that good. Now you've got the Patriots coming in and Cam Newton playing against the Chiefs. A couple of interesting stats here. Patrick Mahomes is 2-1 against the number in his career against Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Also, Andy Reid against the number, 60% against the number against Bill Belichick. Kind of a big test, I think, for the Patriots here. Chiefs do come off that big emotional win. It looks like the Patriots are going to have Harris back and James White, and that's a big part of that offense. James White out of the backfield, catching passes. It's a big game for both these two teams, but I was really impressed with the Chiefs on Monday night.
When you talk about that Chiefs, as impressed as we were Monday night, you have to wonder what happened the week before when they made the trip to L.A. and played the Chargers. They struggled in that game. They were able to win the game in overtime after Butker hits the 2 58-yard field goals after the penalty. But when this Chief team is motivated, we see what they do on Monday night, and they just go out there and destroy the Ravens. And the Ravens had a good series kind of to open the game, were able to run the football, and then obviously when they get down, they had to look more to their passing game, and it just wasn't there for them that night. I think that Raven team is going to bounce back. We're going to see them have some good games moving forward. Nothing to kind of shake your head. I still think that they're the top of the AFC with the Chiefs.
Interesting stat, though, with the Ravens, when they've fallen behind by 10 points, they don't have that type of team to come back. I think it's there's been three games over the last 2 years that they've fallen behind by 10 points and weren't able to come back in those games. That's not the way that offense is built. Once they get the lead, with Dobbins and Ingram and Edwards and Jackson, they just hammer it home. But when they don't have that lead, they're not a come-from-behind team.
Yep. And again, with the expanded playoff format, we've talked about that having that number 1 seed, which the Chiefs are sitting now pretty, and obviously a game ahead of the Ravens and a game in hand head-to-head, that's the one that gets the bye.
Yep.
The number 2 team this year won't get a bye and will be playing in that first round of the playoffs. So very important to continue to win these games and not have that week off. So it's just a matter of do the Chiefs stay motivated? And again, short week with a Patriots team is playing motivated every week, as Cam Newton's going to come out and do everything he can to prove his worth.
Anxious to see how he performs in this game, how he kind of matches up against Patrick Mahomes. We know that they'll open it up a lot, the Chiefs. Newton's thrown a lot of underneath. I think he's 4th lowest in the league in yards per pass. See if he can open it up here a little bit. Now we're going to target the 2 primetime games. Sunday night, you've got the Philadelphia Eagles, who come into this game 0-2-1. I think you can make a case, maybe one of the bigger disappointments in all of football. They win the NFC East last year. Carson Wentz has been a turnover machine. They haven't been able to get the running game going. They've had injuries at wideout. Their rookie wideout, Jalen Reagor's hurt. Alshon Jeffrey hasn't played. Now Deshaun Jackson is hurt. They go to San Francisco. San Francisco had to fly back and forth across country twice, playing the Jets and Giants back-to-back weeks. They looked really good last week. It doesn't matter who it is at running back, if it's Mostert, if it's Coleman, if it's McKinnon, if it's Wilson. They just make plays. They're at home on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles.
Yeah, it was funny. When I was looking into this game, this is actually a big game for the Niners. The last time the Niners played the Eagles, they lost 33-10 in 2017, which made them 0-8 in that Week 17. It's Shanahan's first season in San Francisco. The day after that game, they traded the New England Patriots for Jimmy G. He didn't
Who
start.
won't play in this game, though.
They then went 0-9. Jimmy G came back and won 5 games to end that season, kind of really turned that Niner organization around. Coincidentally, the Eagles actually won the Super Bowl in 2017.
With Nick Foles.
So this is a kind of a game that the Niners team looks for, that they hit rock bottom against the Eagles, and then they've kind of been able to flip the script and turn their whole organization around. You said it on the Eagles, though. This is a mass unit. Wentz, I think, leads the NFL in interceptions with 6. He's been sacked 11 times. He doesn't have a healthy receiver. Dallas Goedert was their leading receiver. He's now out. So it's really down to Ertz and Miles Sanders are their offensive weapons. Greg Ward, is the other receiver that's there. They don't have a whole lot to really look forward to from the offensive standpoint, and they're going up against this dominant Niner defense. Again, has some injuries on their side, but they should get Kittle back from an offensive standpoint on the Niners side. McKinnon's been fantastic. Mostert may play here, may not play here. Jimmy G has been a question mark, most likely not going to play.
Right.
So again, both these teams have been really, really beat up. Kind of turns into an ugly Sunday night game, but a win is a win is a win, and if you can find one here, it'd be interesting.
I think for the Niners, too, with all those injuries, it's no Thomas, no Bosa, no Ford on defense, but they really stepped up last week. Offensively, too, you mentioned about the guys that might come back. Deebo Samuel, who's their number 1 wide receiver.
He's practicing.
He is practicing.
I don't think we see him back on the field.
I think they said week 5, probably against Miami, but that's just going to help that team a lot. When Jimmy G does come back, he won't only have the rookie Brandon Ayuk, he's also going to have Deebo Samuel back. So although everyone kind of ripped this Niner team off and said, wow, they play in such a tough division with Seattle and the Rams and the way the Cardinals are playing, I'm not so sure, because once they get these guys back, I think they'll be much better.
Yeah, and the Eagles, again, even their offensive line, I think Jason Peters and Lane Johnson are both questionable. I just feel bad that these guys, they can't put a team on the field that's going to be competitive. And even though they're fighting, they tied the Bengals last week, and they're trying to
say that again. They tied the Bengals last week.
They're trying to find a way
right.
to get healthy and stay in games, and so they find themselves a 7-point underdog here, having to travel all the way to the West Coast, and I don't think we'll see quit in them. It's just a matter of who they can put on the field.
And interesting, though, with the Niners, too, they played week 1 at home. They lost that game outright to the Cardinals after they had a 10-point lead. Then they were on the road in back-to-back games against the Giants
both in
and
New
Jets,
York,
so now they're back home again. Now we're going to look at the Monday night game, and these are two teams really headed in the opposite direction. It's the Atlanta Falcons and the Green Bay Packers. I think for me, you can make a case right now. I know Seattle's really good, but God, Aaron Rodgers, he has a chip on his shoulder. That offense just looks like they understand now what LaFleur wants to do. Rodgers is playing some of his best football. Defensively, they're good. They can run the ball really good with Jones. You've got such a good young receiving core and MVS and Lazard, and it looks like Devontae Adams might be back again. But, God, they're 3-0. They're either winning it with Rodgers or with Aaron Jones. Defensively, they're good. They're playing a Falcon team that's beat up too. We don't know yet for sure on Julio Jones and Russell Gage. Both guys, I mean, with Ridley, they were, I think all three of the receivers were in the top 15. They may only have Ridley to go to Green Bay. They're 0-3. They blew back-to-back games by having double-digit 2-touchdown leads for the first time in NFL history. Quinn's got to be on the hot seat. That offense hasn't looked good. And similar to what we're talking about with the Eagles, they have to travel to arguably one of the most difficult spots to play in pro football, and that's Lambeau. We know their fans won't be there. The Packers are saying we're still doing the Lambeau leap when we score a touchdown, but I think a mighty difficult task for the Falcons if Julio Jones isn't there and Russell Gage doesn't play.
Well, I know we were praying to keep the Monday night game under last week, and I think we're going to be in a similar situation this week.
Very difficult when the Falcons
I heard
play.
that they just bought all brand new light bulbs for the scoreboard operator to plug in to make sure that that scoreboard's ready to go, because I think that's what we're going to see. The Falcons have proven that they've been able to go up and down the field. Matt Ryan's had some great games, sometime in garbage time and other times, just with him scoring. And if they get Jones back with Wrigley and Gage and Hurst,
they're going to need them against Green Bay. I just when you look at these two teams, how does Atlanta compete if they don't have those guys? I think Jones might be back. Not sure about Gage, but God, when you blow back-to-back, 16-point leads, it's got to be rough in practice all week.
Well, you got 16-point leads, so they're doing something right, and it's just that they've been unable to finish. And again, finishing is what Aaron Rodgers does best.
Don't forget, the Falcons couldn't finish in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and this has kind of been an ongoing theme with them. For whatever reason, either a half or 3 quarters they play really good, and then they can't get it done. So I think in both cases, from our side of the counter, we're probably going to be rooting for the Eagles and Falcons on Sunday and Monday night. Now we're going to dive into hockey a little bit. We know the season ended, but hey, great finish by the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, I just wanted to really wish the Tampa Bay Lightning congratulations on their second Stanley Cup, and really a thank you to the NHL on coming back, finding a way to play, finding a way to get this playoffs underway, getting sports back at that beginning of August, and the NHL and NBA kind of leading that charge with baseball was great for us in the sportsbook industry. It was just great to have hockey back on the screens, and I thought it was awesome the way the bubble worked in Toronto and Edmonton. And obviously, sorry to see our Knights go out, but we were really quick to put the Stanley Cup odds back up on the board. So before the Lightning even raised the cup, we already had next year's cup odds up, and we've opened up the Golden Knights, the favorite to win the cup, at plus 650 with the Avalanche and Lightning right behind them. So if you're getting ready for hockey season next year, which will probably be the first of the 2021 sports to be upon us, as we're hoping that they come back in early December. Not sure if it's going to be in home stadiums or if they're going to adopt another type of bubble, but excited that the NHL was able to play and looking forward to them getting back on the ice.
When we talk about hockey, actually next week, the 6th, is the draft, and the 9th free agency starts. So might be really interesting with a couple of Knights players, including number 29. He keeps saying he wants to stay here. Just wonder how that dynamic works with both Fleury and Leonard, if they're both on the Knights or if one of them does ultimately lead. But next week at this time, we may be talking about one of those guys no longer a member of the Golden Knights.
I think it's also interesting if you're a hockey handicapper to circle that beginning of December or mid-December when the NHL returns, to look at these teams that went really deep in the bubble, to talk about the Stars or the Lightning or the Islanders or the Knights.
Standpoint?
Yeah, that they're not going to get a whole lot of rest before the December starts back up. And so some of these teams haven't been playing since March, and obviously some of them got done a lot earlier than that, or a lot later than that, but still earlier than what these teams. And we've seen in years past the teams that play deep into June, the Penguins, the Capitals, when they've come back that next season, they kind of have a little bit of a sluggish as they didn't get as much rest as the rest of the guys. So something to circle on your calendars for when they'll come back and maybe play against the Lightning and Stars, as they still need a semblance of an off season, and they know that they're good enough to kind of turn it on and get themselves into the playoffs next year.
We saw it too with both the Penguins in the Eastern Conference and the Blackhawks in the Western Conference, when they had that 5 or 6 year run where they were making deep runs into the playoffs and playing a lot more games than anybody else. That fatigue definitely played in. But while we're throwing out kudos, I have to throw it out. The Aces. I mean, congratulations. You're in the you're in the WNBA Finals against the Storm. I mean, that's just terrific. I mean, we're so sad that we miss out on not being able to go to some of these games too. It's amazing how many guests have really kind of gravitated to the Aces and they love watching them. Ask them to put them on the big screens with sound, and it's just fun to have a team right now that's in a championship series against the Storm. So congratulations, Aces. That's an awesome job, and we wish you all the luck.
NBA Finals going on as well. We just finished up Game 1. We saw the Lakers really dominate the Heat. I thought in particular he came out with a good start, got a good early lead, really couldn't stop AD and LeBron. I think some of those younger players that have really gotten them through this playoff series in Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, kind of maybe that big stage, still in the bubble, but when you're across on the court with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, maybe some of those goosebumps start to creep up. So we'll see if those guys, as we go into a little bit later in the series, if they can kind of adapt and get going. But Miami kind of
they got banged up a
lot of
too,
injuries in that Game 1,
right.
So we'll see how that series rolls on. But again, just what an awesome time of year with football going on and NBA Finals and a WNBA and baseball playoffs.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's just awesome.
Baseball's been so cool. I mean, it's kind of a different format, and a lot of people have been asking about that too. They really didn't realize that it is the best of 3, but that all 3 games are played in the home city. So, a couple of teams are already out. It's been kind of fun, but hey, as you mentioned, having all these sports going on at the same time has been yay sports books. I mean, the atmosphere has been so cool.
Well, those
those
opening wild card games have been absolutely fantastic. Like you said, the best of 3, a quick 2-game series, and you're out. Saw the Twins get knocked out real early.
The
Indians, that game was incredible. We go back to the Indians-Yankees, and you want to talk about comparisons to the all-time great Indian movie Major League. But
that's great.
What is it? Karinchak has adapted his inner Ricky Vaughn. He wears number 99.
So cool.
Comes in as the closer, and unfortunately last night he comes in a
little wild thing playing in the background.
4-1 lead and gives up the grand slam to Urshela, and of course the Yankees go on to win, and the Indians are sent home, and Brad Hand, the closer for the Indians, blows his first save, and he was 16 for 16 this year, and blows his first save, and the Indians will have to regroup and find a way next year, and we watch the Yankees advance. But we're going to be going into those best of 5 in San Diego and Los Angeles for the American League, and the National League will shift over to Houston and Texas, and then obviously the World Series in Texas. But these baseball games have been absolutely fantastic.
They've been so much fun to watch. It's great for us, so it's really cool. One more thing, we've been talking a lot about sports, but we can't forget about STN race and the Preakness this weekend, which is really cool. It's usually the second leg of the Triple Crown. It's now the third leg, a little bit different. Authentic will go off as the favorite, but one of the kind of cool things that we're doing for the Preakness is a $15,000 twin Q. We do a lot of $5,000 ones, and we've done some $10,000 ones since we come back. But this is the biggest one. It's a $15,000 twin Q. It's really cool. And I know a lot of guests have asked, what exactly is the twin Q?
Yeah, it's a $2 wager. Obviously, you can expand that out and make multiple wagers to make it cost a little bit more. But $2 to get you in, chance to win $15,000. You're going to pick the Quinella, the horses that run first and second in the first race, and then the horses that win.
And we pick those races.
Yeah, so it'll be the Preakness and another race.
Right.
So you'll have to pick the horses that finish first and second in the Preakness, and then first and second in another designated race. You win those 2. You split with however many people have the twin Q. You potentially split that $15,000. If you're the lone winner on the twin Q, that's when you take home the $15,000.
I can tell you, several years ago we did it when American Pharoah. We hadn't had a Triple Crown winner for a long time. So you guys that are thinking, there'll probably be a lot of winners, we did a $33,333 twin Q. There was one winner. Happened to be here at Sunset. He was pretty happy about it. So for a $2 bet, again, it's really a cool payoff up to $15,000. So get your Twin Q bets in. Come on in. Enjoy everything we have to offer this week, guys. It's football. It's baseball, it's WNBA, it's the NBA Finals going on. We know hockey just ended. It's the Preakness. We love when you guys come in, but as Jay Shirt says, if you can't, just come in, get signed up for the STN mobile app. We'll get you signed up in a matter of minutes. We've got both the race and sports side. It brings the race and sports book to the palm of your hand. So come on in and have some fun.
Well, we jacked up that bonus for new signups.
Did.
So we're still staying at the 10% bonus for all new signups, but we've gone from a earn up to $50 now to earn up to $100. So a $1,000 deposit, once you play that $1,000, you'll earn a $100 bonus. So a big carrot out there to get you signed up for the STN mobile app. Earn up to a $100 bonus for that sign up. Get in today and get that signed up. Again, with so many daytime baseball games, college football back and going, the NFL, I don't know how you call yourself a sports fan without having the app.
Yay, sportsbooks. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. He's Jason. I'm Chuck. That's Teaser. We'll see you next week on another segment of Bookends.